The Egyptian Union had surprised the world when it formed alliances with its neighbors, forming the very first space power that was outside of the United Nations' influence. What made it more disturbing was the fact that the station was armed, making it a threatening presence for any nation operating in orbit. However, the KU and its allies seemed to have bitten off more than they could chew. It was taking all of their resources just to keep the station operational, much less put anything else into orbit. The three nations were aware of this and therefore didn't worry about it too much. They continued to develop their technologies and their vehicles for future space missions. You have to remember that space travel was still in its infancy and that the science was still very low tech. Whenever they would research something, they would have to be very careful on what it was they were researching, since the data collected from other worlds or moons only amounted to about 10% value. This forced scientists and engineers to think out of the box and off the wall in order to solve the problems associated with space travel.
So here's the X-12, URA's first successful hovercraft. Look at her go. But look out, boys. Looks like she can't stay in the air for too long. That's why the boys over at Mission Control have built the X-14, equipped with the latest of engine technology. You can get some real flight time now. But that's not all what they're working on over here at the URA's research facility. Now, a helicopter to you or me would seem simple enough, but on other worlds, where there's no oxygen and very low gravity, it can be quite challenging. Although it is very experimental, this fully electric craft is an attempt to answer those questions. Geez, get a handle on that thing, boys. Yes, the marvel's being created here at the URA Space Center. Looks like planes powered by propellers will be a thing of the past one day. And this strange contraption here is known as a rover. Gas-powered engines and rubber tires would prove useless in the vacuum of space on the moon. Scientists say that big metal tires powered by electric motors is the answer for driving on the moon's surface with its low gravity. But how are you going to get it up there, boys?
While these pet projects were going on in the background, the real focus was Minmus. The Allied mountain states, now armed with the most scientifically advanced probes of the time, were going to send these probes to Minmus. Thanks to the fact that the Ulrike Kingdom's coalition had already sent probes to Minmus, they had skills and expertise critical to the mission. These probes would collect as much information and data as possible about the little moon, before a future mission would go there to collect them. Altogether, there would be 2 Delta-class probes sent to Minmus before a Kerbal mission would be launched. This was to gather as much scientific data as possible using scientific instruments on the probes around Minmus, so that the Kerbal mission wouldn't have to lug heavy scientific equipment to Minmus. The ship could simply be designed to take Kerbals there and back. But as we all know, space travel is not that easy. It would take almost a week to get to Minmus, let alone the science mission itself would take almost a week, and then another week coming back, almost a full month in space. The ship would have to have enough air, food, and water to last almost a month, not to mention breathing room for the crew. On top of that, it would have to have enough fuel for the trip. The three nations were looking at a spacecraft much bigger than any spacecraft they have ever launched. This would prove to be a huge undertaking by the three nations. Each of the three nations would submit their designs, but only one would be chosen. The Orite Kingdom's coalition submitted a very economic design. It could only hold 2 Kerbals in very cramped quarters. Instead of landing on Minmus itself, it would tow a small lander behind it, and on the way back to Kerbin, it would then use the lander as a sacrificial heat shield to slow down Kerbin's atmosphere before redocking with the space station. The Allied Mountain States would send in their version of what a Minmus spaceship should look like. The ship itself was based off of the URA Eagle, however much larger and more powerful. It was large enough to house a crew of 3 with decent-sized living quarters. Instead of towing a landing vehicle behind it, the craft itself would land on Minmus. It had plenty of fuel to land on multiple biomes before having to head back. On top of that, not only could it use Kerbin's atmosphere to slow down and redock with the station, but in case of emergencies, it could actually land on Kerbin's surface. The United Republic of Agara would send in their design. It was the best of both worlds, being relatively economic without sacrificing a few luxuries. Much like the design of the UKC, this ship would also have a small landing craft attached to the back of it, and on its way back to Kerbin, it would use its experimental reusable heat shield to slow down in Kerbin's atmosphere before docking with the space station. Ultimately, this design would be selected to house the Kerbinauts ready for their mission to Minmus. Even though the Venturer was a United Republic of Agara spacecraft, it was more considered to be an international spaceship, as most of its parts and crew came from other countries. The ISS Venturer would be launched unkerballed until it could rendezvous safely with the International Space Station, after which the Venturer's lander would then be launched to the space station.
All systems look good. Board is green. Cover that. Rendezvous successful. We have hard lock. Phase 1 complete. Initiate phase 2. Wow, look at the size of her. That thing looks nicer on the inside than in the station. Yep, you've officially been demoted to AMD. Gee, thanks a lot. Things look good here. Start field transfer. ISS station to command. Field transfer to the Venturer is complete. You may send up the other one.
When everything was okay to go, the shuttle would ferry the Venturer's crew to the International Space Station, ready for launch.
All the pieces are here, ready to be put together. Roger that, URA go. Copy that.
Thank you so much for watching Solar Nations Part 13. Solar Nations Part 14 will be out next week, hopefully, if I have the time. So if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more videos in the future. I am Vaos Human, signing off, and have a good night.